Welcome, physical educators. This is Thinking PE.
Because Phi Ed is more than just fun and games.
I'm Stacy Nelson,
And I'm Jamie Seneca.
and it's our goal to dig deeper beyond the activities that make your class awesome.
So buckle up and join us on this journey.
Welcome to another edition of Thinking PE. Jamie, you're at your school office today, in your PE office. What are you thinking?
You know, during the pandemic here, and it felt good to think about the positives of distance learning. We released that podcast and we took a few moments and just kind of focused on some of the information we gathered of what quote unquote good is coming out of the pandemic as far as education goes. And I thought we could do something similar with the hybrid model.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I want to put out there right away, just like we did with the last one, that we're not trying to downplay the negative parts of this. It's been disastrous for people personally. And if I'm honest, for education as a whole, it's been very difficult. And for these kids, it's been very difficult. As a matter of fact, I'm surrounded by people talking about that all the time, which is kind of the impetus for doing exactly what you were just saying there. Let's take a look at, because there might be some really positive things that come out of this that would have never been there had we not been forced through this living hell, some people call it, you know?
Yeah, dumpster fire comes to mind. But since we're invited to this dumpster fire, we don't have a choice in the matter. We're here. We're in distance learning. We're in hybrid models, and it is kind of good and it is kind of healthy just to take a step back and kind of reflect on, what skills, what strategies, what best practices are we developing as teachers that we can actually use and move forward with as this pandemic, hopefully comes to an end.
Yeah. And as we sit here across Minnesota, at least, it seems like a lot of schools are being forced into distance learning out of hybrid. But who knows what it's going to be like as we come back? We might be inched back into it by hybrid and then go full in. We don't know what that's going to, how that's going to flesh out. But I think it is going to be good here to spend some time. Let's spend 15 to 20 minutes really talking about the positives. And again, a lot of this information doesn't come from us. It comes from a survey that we put out to lots of different teachers, not just PE teachers, and ask them, what good do you see as you teach in the hybrid model? And did anything jump out at you as you looked at that study, the research we sent out?
Right away, the one thing that really jumped out, which seemed to be a common theme throughout, was more increased one-on-one time when it was face-to-face. And
Yeah.
to me, that was really powerful because so much comes out of increased one-on-one time.
Yeah.
We always, in our classes, when we had full classes, a class of 30, we're always, boy, if we just had a class of 25, that'd be nice. Well, now you have a class of 15. And think of so now you have that more one-on-one time that we were wishing for.
Yeah. And that all the studies we've done in the past year, Jamie, they all point to that connection over content type of deal, where here you got a chance. You got 12, 15 in a room, sometimes less. You can really make that connection with kids. And I think that pays huge dividends, not only in what you can see, but even in what you can't measure and what you can't see.
Yes, let's keep chatting about those smaller class sizes. The more one-on-one time, the smaller class size, because there's so much more that goes into that. Another thing that just comes to mind is less wait time for kids. Where normally, if you have a limited amount of equipment, kids have to take turns. They have to share for spacing, for safety. You have 30 kids in your class. There's only so much you can do. So kids take turns, spacing. You have to share, and now all of a sudden you have half that. So right away, no longer kids have to wait their turn or have to share a piece of equipment. Basketball, I've got 60 kids in the gym and 6 baskets in a normal gym class, because we have 2 classes in the gym. Yep. So now we just cut that in half, their wait time.
Yeah, that's phenomenal when you think about those things with limited resources, for sure. I know for me, when I was teaching hybrid, I was almost giddy over the fact that I could call each student by name several times throughout the time period we had together. And maybe a lot of teachers are good at that anyway. I don't know, but that when I get 30 kids in a class, 32, it's just so overwhelming. if that's all I had, that'd be great. But I got 650 kids, and that just gets so hard to remember all of them. Whereas when I've got 10 in a class, 12 in a class, I can put down my clipboard and I can call them all by name several times and holler out, "Hey, Jason, that was a fabulous jump you did there." And even use the loudspeaker, and just the encouragement in the gym just goes way up, just simply because I can know everybody's name and use it regularly.
And that is an area that I struggle with. Same thing, 650 kids in the class or in the school. And, some teachers can pick up names really quickly, and I'm just not one of them. And I really struggle with it, and I make a deliberate effort, but it takes a lot of time for me to learn an entire class's names. And, that's just reassuring, or, it would give me some additional energy to be able to call all the kids in the gym, every single class, by their name.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation of building a relationship, really.
Right. And it's just, for me, it was just fun. Just, I feel like the atmosphere changes. It's just that much more, I'm going to use the term intimate in a professional setting anyway, but it does. It feels like a close group that we're really close. They know my name, I know their name. I'm not just directing traffic. We are interacting a lot more. And I think that's huge. I don't even know how you can measure all the benefits to that. I just feel it as a teacher that I've just got much more going with them when I can call them by name and have that personal relationship, for sure.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, also as you increase your relationship with the students and the students, you understand them, so you're being more proactive versus reactive, and all of a sudden the behaviors, and a number of people commented on that in their responses, that classroom management, or time spent addressing behavior problems, has dramatically fell, because you can give kids the individual attention they need. So you can see a kid start to struggle, and before they have a meltdown, you can give them the support that they need.
Yeah. That was really interesting. That touches on kind of a bigger idea of this with the hybrid. The big drawback is we're only seeing the kids every other day or less. Mm-hmm. But when they're there, this is what really got me thinking about the positives. Is there several teachers mentioned things that actually are time savers, like you talked about, like the not waiting in line, like what you were just referring to there, the being able to move through curriculum faster. Several teachers mentioned that you can go to each student, so you can get through more curriculum. So you're getting through more than half of the curriculum, even though you only see them half or less of the time. And so there's a few things like that teachers threw out, that because of the small class sizes, you're actually more efficient and you're actually making up some ground. Can you think of any others that they're on that list when people?
Well, I can think of some that weren't on the list, but just, simple examples, something as simple, like taking your class, when teachers bring their classes to the gym and they stop to use the bathroom first.
Yeah.
And there's stalls in the bathroom for the 15 or 20 boys, or how many boys are in the class, or girls. And all of a sudden that's cut in half. So something as simple as the restroom breaks, that time is now cut in half. Waiting in line for your turn in the gym, same thing at lunch, just transition through lunch much quicker. So just less kids, you just become more efficient with your time, and you can really maximize that.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier the behavior. If you're spending less time on behavior, you're spending more time focused on moving kids forward.
I saw some teachers really commented on there too, that they've learned to maximize that, because that face-to-face time is so precious.
Yep.
That you learn to appreciate, and you learn to maximize that time. And with that comes more energy. The kids, because they're not in school as much, they come to school with more energy and excitement, and they are just, based on the responses, they're ecstatic to be there as well.
Yeah.
So we definitely feed off each other.
Yeah. One teacher specifically, she said that students are reaching more goals. And I think it feeds into exactly what you were just talking about there. And kind of piggybacking on that, where I use the term, the gap is shrinking with hybrid, meaning the students that really, really need help, they need to hear it over again. They need to take it slow. Those students are getting the help, and that's allowing them to keep up with we talked about it being a faster pace. but they're able to keep up because the teacher can give them that extra time because they don't have to worry about 28 other kids in the classroom and what they're doing. And I think it was a first grade teacher in my building I had asked, and she kind of got a smirk on her face. She goes, you know, those little buggers, they can't hide when there's only 8 or 10 in the class. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She goes, so some of those kids, they're good kids, so you don't spend a lot of time with them, but they really didn't get it. And when there's 28 or 30 in the classroom,
Yeah.
you don't get it. You don't notice them. But when you have only a few in the classroom, you notice that their eyes are glazed over and they're just being quiet and afraid to ask the question. And so they can't hide is what the term she used. I kind of like that idea.
And it's pretty fascinating, to be honest, and put yourself out there and acknowledge that too. But yeah, we do miss things when they're in a class of 30.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we'd like to think we don't, I'm sure we miss things. I'm sure there's kids' needs that aren't being met. And all of a sudden you lessen those numbers and those kids can't hide anymore.
Yep. And the bullies can't hide either.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they've noticed. It's just a nicer atmosphere. Several teachers mentioned in the classroom that the group of 10 to 12 is getting to know each other and there's nobody left out. Whereas when you get to class of 30, not only can they hide from the teacher, but they can hide from their peers, so to speak, and they can feel super lonely. These teachers, at least the ones that are responding, were saying in their classrooms, they're seeing kids, everybody's engaged, even the ones that are quiet and sometimes get left out. Well, it's a little awkward when there's only 9 kids to leave a kid out. And so the group itself reaches out to them and invites them into the party, so to speak.
That was actually listed in responses, was the engagement. Well, student engagement has increased by default because you have to. You can't. There's no choice. It's such a small group, so engagement has increased, and there was a couple other responses in there that the quality, and I thought was interesting. The quality of instruction increased.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, why would that be? Is it just because of a smaller class size? Is it because we recognize it as more precious time when we see them face to face? But the exact words were higher quality instruction.
Yeah. Oh, I felt it even in PE, because if I'm teaching throwing, I get a game going and I've got 12 kids out there, 6 kids on a side. Maybe I'm teaching a game and they're aiming at pins and they're throwing. I only got 6 kids on each side. I can look, not only am I calling them by name, but if somebody's stepping with the wrong foot, I can walk out there, hand them a ball and work with them while in the middle of the game, because the game is going to go. I've only got 6 people on a team. When I got 12 on a team, 24 total, it's just harder to do that. You can still do it, but it's just harder. Number one, it's harder to notice. But number two, it's harder to do that without things falling apart. So I think that's part of it. In the classroom, it works the same way. You notice, you address it right away, you get those needs. I don't know. It just seems like not only quality instruction, but I would add assessment into that. You know, we're assessing all the time on the go, and when you're only looking at 12 kids, you notice and you can assess and address. We could maybe call it assess it, address it, and then even though you're not writing paper pencil assessments, that's what we do as PE teacher. We're assessing all the time, but you can get it fixed and go from there. I don't know. I've never had so much fun teaching as when I was teaching in this hybrid model. And I think it was because of those things. I felt like I was really making an impact with kids every single day, not just emotionally, but physically. We could bring their skills along in a short period of time.
You know, and that's when we were going to transition to a hybrid model, I actually needed to hear that night. Remember, I had called you up and just chatted through because I knew you were teaching hybrid. And I went to the bad place first, like, oh, what are we going to do with this hybrid thing? It was so refreshing to hear some of the positive things with the smaller classes and with increased engagement. And most importantly, just calling kids by the name. I was like, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. And then the one response, I'm going to read it word for word because it happened to be one of the last ones. It's kind of like, save the best for last type mentality here. But when I read it, I was just like, wow, that's fascinating. And it said, it's an opportunity to re-image education. And we know, and I'm reading it word for word here, quote, we know connections lead to better learning and understanding. the smaller classes help facilitate this.
Hmm.
And to me, that just kind of, it just sums up that whole thing of what's the good that can come out of a hybrid model. And it's that as you look back, it's re-imaging what education looks like.
Yeah.
And understanding how important relationships are. And now and seeing the impact of how a relationship is. So now when we get back to our regular classes, now the challenge is going to be to transition that same mindset back into your class of 24 or back into your class of 30.
Yeah. And I hope that there's some people doing a little bit more scientific studies than the one we were doing. We're kind of gathering information and getting teachers' opinions. But I hope there's people that have been actually studying how much they got through in their curriculum, how deep their curriculum went rather than how wide. And that once this is all over, they can bring this to authorities and show that, look what happens when you lower class sizes, and really use this as a push. I don't think we'll ever get to cut it in half.
Yeah.
But it can be a push kind of going, okay, what do you want? Kind of put that out there for our administrators and our lawmakers, just kind of like, if you really want quality, give us lower class sizes and we'll bump that quality up. It's just going to happen. So I don't know if there's some hard data you can gather from this or not, but I'm hoping somebody smarter than me is able to gather that somewhere, because it's blatantly obvious to me when I'm walking down the hallway. I visit other teachers' classroom, I talk to teachers. The quality is much deeper, or they say the curriculum is deeper, it's higher quality, it's just not as wide. We're not getting through nearly as much, which makes sense. We only see the kids every other day. So I really do. That's something we could move forward with, I think.
Yeah, so the final one that happened to pop in there was just the idea of individualized instruction. And, it comes in a number of different formats, whether it's student voice and choice, differentiation, challenge by choice. But it's the opportunity to individualize the learning based on specific students. And again, to me, that's the most impactful type of learning is, rather than, we talk about our professional development that we sometimes get, it's called sit and get, where we sit in an auditorium or you sit in a class and take notes as an instructor, or somebody leading professional development just spits out the information, sit and get, versus that individualized instruction. And again, go back, it starts with the smaller class sizes as making it attainable. Yeah.
And kind of right along with that is that idea of varied delivery methods. So we can deliver instruction in different ways to hit individual. Maybe some students are going to learn better when you send videos home. They can stop it and rewind and go back, and just bringing that stuff forward, the technology with us forward as we move into this. We say getting back to normal, but there is not going to be a back to normal. There'll be a new normal that comes up. So how would you put a bow on this and wrap it all up and summarize it? Can you do that for us?
I come back. So in order to have individualized instruction, in order to have quality individualized instruction, you have to meet with individual students. And one of the best ways to meet with individual students is you lower that class size. So we go back to smaller class sizes, allows us to build the relationships, individual relationships with students, address individual instruction, be more proactive instead of reactive, and allows us to maximize the use of our facilities and equipment.
And that is Thinking PE.
Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at Thinking PE. Find us on all your favorite podcast providers by searching Thinking PE. For more resources and videos, go to www.thinkingpe.com. Thanks for listening.